This is the Vongon Paragraphs 2 stereo resonant low pass filter with stereo modulators and stereo things. It's a stereo low pass filter device, and we're going to explore it in a 3-part video today. In part 1, we'll talk about what low-pass filters are. So if you already know what a low-pass filter is, you can probably skip part 1. In part 2, we'll talk about the unique features of this pedal. And then in part 3, we'll just kind of do some free-form explorations where we put different instruments and sound sources through the pedal and look at some different scenarios in which I have been using it in my studio and you might consider using in yours. And hopefully we'll have a good, happy time the entirety of the video, but if you find certain points less or more interesting than others, feel free to skip around. No need to go in order. So then, welcome to part 1, in which we will talk about what a low pass filter is. We're going to use this Moog subharmonicon as our sound source at first because synthesizers are a really classic example of a place where you'd maybe want to use a low pass filter. I'm going to open this filter up all the way, first off, and let you hear that when I do that, more high frequencies are coming through. And that is because a low-pass filter removes high frequencies as we close the filter down. You'll see these frequency markings in hertz and kilohertz next to the cutoff knob. And that's because the spot at which the filter begins removing frequencies is called the cutoff. Why is it called a low pass? Because it lets all of the low frequencies pass through the filter while removing everything above the cutoff point. Wide open for Paragraphs 2 is 12 kilohertz. So as I turn the pedal off, you'll hear that we get back frequencies above 12 kilohertz. And then as I turn it on, even wide open, it's got some sauce. And as we rotate this knob counterclockwise, we remove all the stuff above the cutoff point. The only other thing probably to know about low-pass filters in general is that usually there's a resonance knob or emphasis knob. And what this does is right before this frequency, let's say 1.2 kilohertz, we can cause the filter to kind of feed back on itself and emphasize, bump the frequencies right before that point. So it's going to emphasize everything right before the cutoff point. So listen without resonance and with. And most filters will self-oscillate, where they actually begin producing a sine wave tone. And Paragraphs 2 will gladly do that. So, low-pass filters remove frequencies above the cutoff point. Resonance introduces a frequency bump right before the cutoff point. And that's probably everything that is relevant to this video. So, you know, it's not that complicated. And now you know how a filter works if you didn't know before. If you already know what a low-pass filter is and you're joining us at this point in the video, hi. I think the best place to start would be to do a filter sweep with the Paragraphs 2 and then also with the Moog Subharmonicon's ladder filter, because this is a ladder style filter. Moog is, you know, renowned and known for their ladder style filters. So let's just hear the similarities and differences between these two filters. Handy dandy mix knob here. So before we do anything else, just notice that our wide open point on the Paragraphs 2 is 12 kilohertz. So there's some sauce involved even with it wide open. All right, here's the Subharmonicon's filter. We'll sweep from closed to open with no resonance. Here's the Paragraphs 2. And let's give ourselves a little bit of resonance here. And try it again. Same thing over here. Okay, great. I don't want to make any comments or judgments on the comparison between the two because that is for you to do. I just thought it might be useful for you to hear. But let's talk about some unique features on the Paragraphs 2, because this is a really, really fun and well-designed pedal that has some cool stuff going for it. Functionally, we've got stereo inputs and outputs up top. We've got 1/8" jacks for control voltage or expression and for MIDI. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with those control methods. We're not going to touch on them today, but for those of you who like to get really granular and deep with the way that you control your pedals, it's all here. Let's talk about functional blocks beyond that. Over here, on the left, we've got the envelope generator and envelope follower, or like a control module here that will basically tell the pedal how you want to trigger this envelope. And then you've got a bipolar depth potentiometer here to control how much the filter is affected, opened or closed by the envelope that you generate. So that's one thing. We've got a sensitivity knob here for the envelope follower. You can see it kind of lighting up because we're in cycle mode. We'll talk about all that here in a second. Then we've got an LFO. This is independent of the envelope generator and follower, and it is a stereo LFO. Stereo. Okay, there are two LFOs, and they're out of phase, 180 degrees. So the practical application of that, if we use this sine wave, is you can now hear it generating this really incredible stereo image and movement. And then, of course, we've got the cutoff knob, mix knob, and resonance. Let's start with the LFO, because this is a really cool and fun, unique, instant way to take mono sound sources like this and widen them, or add some additional excitement in stereo imaging to sounds that are already in stereo. We've got our depth knob over here. At noon, it's doing nothing. And counterclockwise, we're introducing a sine wave at the rate specified here. It is bipolar, so it is both closing and opening the filter, as you can hear. good. Frequency-wise, you can go from 0.1 hertz, very slow, to low audio range, where you get into like ring mod territory, which sounds very, not vanilla, but predictable in sine wave mode. But clockwise of noon, we've got this random, like smooth random. And this one is fun for making sputtery, warbly noises with higher rates. It's totally random and great for throwing things around in the stereo field in less than predictable ways. This is really, really fun when followed by stereo effects or sandwiched between stereo delay and reverb, and I have to imagine we'll do something like that in part 3 of this video. Next, let's talk about this functional block on the left, and we will chill out our LFO. So we've basically got an envelope follower that is tracking the amplitude and dynamics of whatever you're sending into the inputs over here. And you can do two things with that envelope follower. One, you can map it directly to the filter cutoff with the envelope follower. Two, you can set a threshold with the sensitivity knob, at which when you exceed that threshold, it will trigger the envelope generator. Or three, you can just cycle the envelope generator. We're going to start there because I think I might want to use a sound source with more dynamics than what we've got going on with the subharmonicon. I'm not even using the envelope generator over here right now. We're just letting it drone on. So let's talk about cycle mode. Basically, you've got rise time, fall time on your envelope here. So if we go with no rise and a medium long fall, we should get a plucky sound when we open the filter. And as we apply some envelope with this attenuator, indeed we do get a plucky sound. So what this is doing is it's creating a sharp AD envelope, and it's turning this knob, this frequency knob, for us. It's controlling it. As we reduce the fall time, the cycle gets shorter. So I'm just going to slide this down slowly and let you listen. This is really fun to play. If we were to reverse that, doing longer rise and shorter fall, sound like this. Sounds almost like a reverse thing. And of course, long rise and long fall will swell in and swell out. Let's switch over to something plucked or more guitar-like to talk about the envelope follower and the trigger. 1 second. Okay, so to talk about the trigger and follower, we're just gonna play this little acoustic thing off of my phone. And first, let's talk about the trigger mode here, in which we set a sensitivity threshold with this knob, tell the pedal how much of the envelope we want to send to the cutoff frequency, and whenever that threshold is exceeded, triggers an envelope and creates an attack decay. So like, this is what the acoustic sounds like, and let's start it over for some plucks. And each time we pluck, it's going to open. So this is fun because, like, when you find the right sensitivity threshold, you can dig in with your playing and it'll open the filter. And you can also set it to where it's not as dramatic and it's just kind of adding some sauce to the top end. And then we've got an envelope follower, very snappy, very responsive envelope follower that basically just maps the dynamics of your playing of your sound source directly to the filter. So let's close this down a little bit. We'll send all the juice. Sensitivity knob tells the pedal how sensitive to make the envelope follower. Traditionally, you use this for like auto wah effects, but think of it as a way to translate your instrument's dynamics directly to the filter knob. Okay, so this concludes part 2 of the video. Parts 1 and 2 are pretty functional, pretty like, this is the pedal, this is how it works. For me, the more exciting thing, the thing that gets my mind and imagination going, are what it sounds like in a musical context. So let's go there, and let's spend a lot of time listening to the pedal in a musical context, interacting with instruments and other effects, and a lot less time listening to me talk about the pedal. So please enjoy. I don't know that I'll be back to tell you to like and subscribe, so go ahead and do that now, and enjoy the sounds of the Paragraphs 2 in context with other stuff in my studio.